Welcome to today's show. For all of you watching on YouTube, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button, and click that bell for notifications. Today on Mr. Nashville Talks, we celebrate a Hollywood legend and a 5-octave dynamo, Yma Sumac. With her personal assistant and friend until the end of her life, Hollywood makeup artist, pop culture historian, Damon Devine. Well, I'm excited today because we have Damon Devine on the show. He is a makeup artist, but he's also an incredible confidant and personal assistant to the late Yma Sumac, and a lot of great friends that he's known through the years. Quentin Crisp, Tammy Faye Bakker, who I also knew as well. And he's like me, he's an avid fan of Mae West, and he's an incredible historian on Mae West actually as well. So it's going to be a fun conversation, and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
having me. That's great.
So now, are you from LA originally, or
I came from Sacramento, California, which is north of here.
yeah, yeah,
I moved here at the age of just very young, on
yeah,
on my own.
yeah, all on your own. That's good.
Yeah,
And you, because I know you met Ema very young, as well, didn't you?
right. Yeah.
Yeah. How did that get started that you all and became to work together anyway? I know that you were a fan first. Is that correct to say?
Well, for years, lots of friends tried to get me into her music and interested in her. And I was so young then, and it was sort of a different time period with no internet so much or whatever.
Yeah.
I just didn't really get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't pay attention, then another person, then somebody I was dating, then another friend. So I thought, well, she's got to be pretty cool if they keep trying to get me into her.
Yeah.
And so, interestingly enough, I was in Buena Park, a outskirt of LA that I never go to, and I was sitting there with my friend, and somebody called out Ema. And I thought, I wonder if that person's calling out to that lady everybody's trying to get me into. I said, let's go see. So we went looking, and there was the Sun Virgin album cover. I looked at it and then looked across the room, and it was definitely her. And I thought, what are the odds of this? So I went and talked to her, and she was really sweet and cute, beautiful face of great makeup and really sweet. So after that, of course, I was totally under the spell of Yma Sumac, as they call it, and collected everything I could at the time. It was a different time.
Yeah.
You know, but I live in LA, so it was certainly easier for me to get photos and things like that and the music. And so that was that.
Yeah. And so you got to know her a little bit that way as far as reconnecting, I mean, connecting with her music that way. But how did you become her personal assistant and traveling with her? How did that come about?
This is where it gets a little wacky.
That's the best stories, right?
Again, times are very different now.
Yeah.
They'd freak out, you know, but this was the late 90s. So I went to, they had just re-released her CDs for the first time, all of them at once. And it was the height of the re-emergence of the exotica craze, which, you know, she's the queen of exotica.
Right.
So I went to like 2 of them. I even saw her in concert once at the House of Blues. And she got a Lifetime Achievement Award, which I have in the kitchen now.
Oh, wow.
And I went to that show, and afterwards we took a lot of really cute pictures together. Really like hugging, a little kiss here and posing and making faces. And, you know, there was photo labs then.
Yeah.
And destroyed the negatives.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. I would die.
I was devastated.
Oh,
Heartbroken.
yeah, they don't realize how great they have it today with the whole selfie thing, and if the
Right.
picture didn't turn out, we can just take another one with the digital. But
Right.
back then it was devastating when we get that roll of film in and they ruined a roll of film or something. Yeah.
And the redo that you just mentioned, well, I was convinced that that was possible.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There.
Innocence. So I asked her manager, or whatever we're going to call him,
Yeah.
where she lived. Of course, he would not tell me.
Right.
But I had talked to enough people where I could figure out the general vicinity of where she lived.
Yeah.
So I got a picture of her and I that we took at Tower Record signing. And I decided to go door to door. I decided to go door to door on the street that I believed that she lived on.
Yeah.
And it was a very Russian Hollywood place. And I was, have you seen this lady? And then and they misunderstood. And some of them said, I'm sorry, you can't find your grandmother. She's okay here. That was not quite the situation. I knocked, so I found some Indian guy, East Indian. And he said, oh, that lady, she lives there. And I said, that's Yma Sumac. And he said, really? That close to Yma Sumac. So I went to the door, and because I knew it was hers, then my heart was beating in my throat. I was a little shaky. I had flowers for her. Some flowers. So I went to the door and I went to knock, and I was like, I can't do this. I just can't. Because I was told, I said, she might be sweet and nice in public.
Right.
But she might be very different privately. And I said, no, she's magic. So I thought, well, I'm here. I have to do this.
Yeah.
I knocked on the door and I hear this, yes. And I was like, oh, God. And so she yanks this black curtain back from the screen. And I see immediately the green eyes upward slanted and the red lips, but not everything else. You know?
Right.
And I said, hi, my name is Damon, and I met you at, and the flowers were shaking. And she says, how you get this address? My God, get this address. And I was terrified, and the flowers were shaking. I said, well, nobody really, but, and she said, and then she looks down and she sees the flowers shaking. And she's really mean. And she looks down, but I see her crack a little smile. She knew I was scared and I brought flowers that were shaking. So she said, you wait out there for 1 minute. So then she comes out in, her version of street clothes. And then we talk, and it started from there, to my surprise.
Well, that is far more interesting than what I thought it was going to be, the story to get it. So I'm glad I asked that. So so it just started from there, and you just kept in contact, and then eventually,
well,
you needed help.
I was told that she would test me.
Yeah.
And that I understood only a couple decades later why. Yeah. It's a little darker, that part. Yeah. But anyway, she did test me, and the person said she will cancel to test you, and she did cancel. Each other again to test me, and then we saw each other, and that was that. We were not fast friends, though, because she was a very strong woman with strong opinions, and I was a young, strong guy with strong opinions. I had no brothers or sisters and no parents, so I was a very staunch character.
Yeah.
I
like that.
And so we didn't, if I disagreed with her, I would say it, and she would disagree with me. And so it was not a fast friendship. She was very untrusting. And it would take me a long time to figure out why. So it took years for me to be vulnerable and relax around her, and the same number of years for her to realize that I was a good and trustworthy person.
Yeah.
And so that's how the friendship began. And then that was about 1997. Yeah. And she said something. She had a very harsh tone, and she went a little overboard once.
Uh-oh.
And I said, all right, lady, I'm not coming back here. And I left for several months. It was that bad.
Oh, wow.
So then I started to feel a little bit sad. And then I heard that her temperament had got her into really serious trouble. I don't know if I've ever brought this up before.
Yeah, I've not read it. So if it's,
She got into serious trouble for her temperament with a neighbor. So she didn't live there anymore, even though she owned the place. But anyway, she did find a different place. So I went there to see her months later. And I was quite surprised. Her hair had grayed quite a lot in a short period of time. Her memory was a little different.
mhm.
From there, we resumed where we left off. And then about a year after that, she started to do public functions again. And I said, because she couldn't see so well at the time. And I said, maybe I should help with your makeup. I'm a professional makeup artist. And she said, nope, nobody touching my face. I know how to do the makeup. I am a very intelligent woman. And nobody had ever touched her face for the movies, for the album covers, photo shoots, concerts. She did it herself, that amazing
Wow.
makeup.
Yeah.
But at this point, she simply couldn't. And one day she would say, nope, no touch my face. And the next day, if you want to, it's okay. Then the next day, no, that back and forth thing. But it ended up that I did. And then I worked with her from 2004 to the end.
Now you went to, did you go to Peru with her as well? Or is that where, yeah.
Yeah, I
Is
did.
Was that a hard trip, or I'm taking that it might have been. I'm taking that it might have been.
What you see on YouTube is carefully edited by the Peruvian press and channels. That's not quite, it looks lovely and perfect. And there were some nice moments.
Yeah.
But she was entirely too old to be traveling that far. And she had short-term memory loss.
Yeah.
And she was started to say things that were very outlandish, that were just simply not based in reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Serious things. Some TV shows had to be canceled because she had talked madness.
Oh, really?
But of course, you won't be seeing any of that on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it was very hard. It was a very difficult trip. Her manager very much wanted to see Machu Picchu, and I think that's how we ended up there.
Yeah.
She also went, I think, because she felt in her own unusual way that it was a competition between her and her husband, who passed away years before. They were divorced in the 50s, but still,
Yeah.
the resentment was very intense. So she, in her mind, thought it was a competition and she had to win.
Yeah.
That's how we ended up there. When we got there, she was overworked. I think there was a lot of opportunism going on.
Yeah.
They won't like to hear this, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Towards the end, we were sitting on the bed. I'll never forget this, on her bed in a beautiful hotel suite. And she says, darling, I'm missing my home.
Oh. Yeah.
And she meant Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I wanted to get home to. Yeah.
And so we came home a few days later. And after that, because of some of the things I saw, I became a little more vocal.
Yeah.
For her protection.
Yeah.
Towards others that I thought were sort of wanting her to do these last minute projects that could have ended up quite disastrously.
Yeah.
And I was just sick of people overlooking her age. She was a very strong woman, physically, mentally, sometimes, but sometimes not. And they chose to overlook that for projects that they wanted their name attached to.
Yeah.
And the manager would say, oh, she needs this. And I thought, she needs this or you need this.
Right. Yeah, so, it's usually the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we got very close though after that trip. The trip did bring us closer than ever.
So at this point then, I guess then I mean, was she living alone and everything? Because she got pretty sick at the end, didn't she?
Well, she lived alone from 1968 till she passed away in 2008.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And she preferred that.
Yeah.
After her younger life, the Hollywood life, what we saw in the really glamorous years was beautiful on the stage and photos, TV, a couple of movies, but at home it was not so great.
Yeah.
There was betrayal everywhere, from the the three people closest to her were the most terrible.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it seems to happen that way a lot.
So after the husband and his son left permanently to Europe, and the husband's special friend so moved out, then she lived alone, and she was very happy to live alone.
Now, when you did you work at the Ravenswood? It seems like I was remembering that for some reason. Was that like when you first came to Los Angeles?
No.
No, it was later.
Like 1997. It was exact same time I met Yma Sumac and all of this. I began to work at the Ravenswood at the same time.
Now, how did you get to the Ravenswood? Was it just the May spirit or May West spirit just kind of drawing you there that you wanted to kind of, or did you know people working there? Or yeah,
it was absolutely deliberate on my part.
Well, I figured I was trying to be tactfully, you know.
Well, I wanted to live in there, but it was way too expensive then, and of course now it's totally insane.
Yeah, it's
I sought it out. Yes, I did. And and I took the graveyard shift, that changed my sleeping for the rest of my life to this day.
Yeah.
I took it, yeah. And at night, it was very interesting there.
Yeah. Did you get to go up into her suite?
I did, alone.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's a story.
Yeah, tell it. Yeah, that would be great.
I went up there. Her door numbers 611 were still there. Her original door numbers. The little peephole thing. It was a big square, and she would open it and look out. That was still there. And I had the keys.
Yeah.
So I would go there and just look around in there. You could still see the outline of her famous mirrored bed.
Yeah.
Still in the they could have easily sanded that down. I think they didn't want to.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe they sand it down and it comes through still.
There you go.
But I actually went there a few years before when two ladies lived in there.
Oh.
And I went there unexpectedly, again, that kind of thing that we just don't do these days. And they opened the door and let me in. I was all dressed up. And they had rebought her furniture.
I remember reading that.
Her dining room furniture. They bought the table and chairs and put them in the original dining room of the Ravenswood. Wow. And so, of course, I took a picture on that. I was just, at that young age, I can't even explain the feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, I never dreamt I would be in her dining room on her furniture. And then I found that picture of her with all of it from the 30s. She was also dressed in solid black. So it was a really good side-by-side picture. But I didn't work there till like 4 years later. So I'd go in there alone sometimes very late at night.
Yeah.
To see what she saw out the windows and to see it was a 2-bedroom and a decent sized living room and all of that stuff, the kitchen that I don't think she ventured into very often.
I would say not.
And, so this one time, I was studying metaphysics, which she also studied. So I went in and just decided to talk in her bedroom, right where the bed had been. And I was just expressing tremendous gratitude. I had a sort of a difficult childhood, and she was always sort of there, the smile, and seeing her pictures and hearing music and watching her movies. It helped me through a lot of things.
Yeah.
Thanking her for that and all of that stuff. And all of a sudden, the door in another room wildly slams shut, completely on its own.
Oh, wow.
Totally.
Wow.
And the slamming isn't, an attitude. It's all you can do at some point.
Yeah.
I guess on the other side, just let him know, I hear you, kid. That kind of thing. So, but of course, my heart was beating in the roof of my mouth.
Yeah.
After that, so I said, all right, I'll be seeing you.
But how did you get in to know Quentin Crisp? I think he's just amazing. He was just one of those great, just to listen to him talk was, you never got bored.
I don't remember where I saw him that got my attention. I really can't remember. But I did hear that he was in the New York phone book and that he would answer his own phone.
Yeah.
I didn't really believe that, but I did call it because I've been reading some of his books and thought he was really funny
Yeah.
and a true original.
Yeah.
And really amazing given his persona, the way he looked in the 20s and 30s. It was very dangerous.
Yeah, definitely.
Out many times. But I did call and I heard this, "Oh, yes." and it was him, and then he was very, very nice. He was different than the others I got to know intimately, though, because he was British first.
Yeah.
And he'd seen a lot by that age, so I'm sure he was detached emotionally.
Yeah.
I think he'd felt quite enough as a young person.
Yeah.
So he sort of detached at this point. He was also a people pleaser in that he wanted to give you a show. He had an answer for everything that was already said many times before, usually. So here, we hug and give a little kiss or whatever. And he was a little stiff that when I did meet him in person finally.
Yeah.
And we got along well. I mean, he was nice to everybody, but he was a little detached than what I'm used to, than what we're used to here in this country.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Of course, our Tammy Faye, that I know you knew her really well, and she was just, have you seen the movie? I have not got to see it yet, but did you see it?
Yeah, I saw the trailer, the preview first, and I didn't like the first part. I liked the second part, and I was nervous wreck because she's such an easy target, being so sweet and looking as she saw fit.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
But then I saw the actress in an interview, and she seemed really respectful.
Mm-hmm.
She studied Tammy Faye for 10 years.
I know, it's wow.
So you can't study her for more than a week and not love her.
Yeah.
So 10 years. So I saw it, and it was a very emotional experience because she really captured her essence.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you told me that because, I've had some friends that were kind of, that some of us that knew her, and some liked it, some didn't. And so I was kind of on that teeter-tottering, whether I go, and because like you said, you don't want to see somebody take shots at somebody that you like and that you knew and you cared about. Or when was the last time you got to see her?
Well, I talked to her on the phone like 24 or 30 hours before.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
She did a Larry King interview, which fortunately I did not see, or I would have been devastated. She didn't want to tell me how she was really doing. She was also an eternal optimist.
Yeah.
In the worst of situations. I am not.
Yeah.
And I think she knew that. So she said, like that. She said, "I'm fine, hon. Your old mom was fine," because I'd call her mom. And I'm fine, but she was breathing strange. She had been breathing strangely for a long time, so I didn't think too much of it.
Yeah.
So then there was that interview I did not see, and then she passed away just hours after that interview.
How did Yma die exactly?
She had pain in her side very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like really bad, but she refused to go to the doctor, which a lot of people do that. And nobody would listen to me, not her attorneys, not these alleged managers and what have you. So finally I got so upset that I went to her attorneys and I said, "We have to go to court to get her out of the house and just make her go." I didn't want to have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I said, "I can't be there because she'll start yelling at me and expecting me to keep her indoors when she, so I couldn't be there." And they got her to the, just through coercion. It wasn't anything terrible.
Yeah.
And then she got the diagnosis. So when the doctor told her, he said, "You have a cancer." To her, that's what the husband and his special friend died of. So she saw that as something bad that you get as a sort of a karmic thing.
Yeah.
So when he told her that, she said, "What?" And she said, typically Yma Sumac, she said, "You have the cancer." Mouth. And she said, "You want my money? You're not going to get it," sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, she did have the operation. She said, "Oh, darling, I'll be home in just a few hours," which was not the case, you know. And then she said, "No, don't touch anything in there. I know where is everything." That was typical Yma also. So yeah, so she just had colon cancer that, like Tammy Faye, really, it was the same thing. So yeah, so she passed. I wanted to keep her mysterious.
Yeah.
Sort of important to me because that's what she wanted, but the Los Angeles Times called my phone. I don't know how they got my phone number as soon as I got home from that day. And I was in grief, so it just slipped out. And I said, don't put that part in there. Let's keep it a mystery. And of course, you tell that to the LA Times, and what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the first thing they put.
So that's what they did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that that had happened, especially with you getting that connection and getting to know her that well, and becoming family, like that. And
Right. Tammy Faye was 2007. Yma Sumac was 2008.
yeah, oh, that's right. So, oh, yeah, I was actually thinking in reverse, but yeah, you're right. You're right. That was.
I remember telling Yma Sumac about it. I was telling her the story. I know she passed away, and I choked up a little bit on the couch. Not doing this.
Yeah.
And
okay.
To my surprise, she was nice if she really knew you intimately. She wasn't really the hug type, but she actually put arms around me.
Oh.
It's okay. You have a good friend in Yma. And of course, I cried 10 times harder after that. That was a sweet moment. I've never told anybody that before.
Yeah.
That will be in a book and documentary, hopefully soon.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. When do you have plans to? Are you in the process of doing that now, or?
She left me all of her personal things. She didn't make a will, so by the state of California, the default law is all of the money goes to the next of kin, which was not me. The personal things to me, which obviously I certainly deserved. I'd been the loyal one I gave her my whole young life, really. Yeah. And so that includes all documents and personal letters and thousands of photos. She gave me her archives before she passed away. We started her official website together. So she gave me thousands of photos, unpublished music, and lots of documents. She didn't look through them clearly before she gave me these documents. So they're in the archives, and they tell her complete story when you put them all together.
Yeah.
Plus my knowing her. It's a most complete story, and nobody in the world knows all of the details the way that I do. People are very visual now. The young people especially don't like to read as much as they like to see the pictures.
Right.
What to do, because I have thousands of Mae West photos from a little girl to way at the end, like 1979. So I'd like to do a life and pictures kind of book, a really nice one, a very high quality.
Yeah.
The technology we have now can make them absolutely breathtaking in quality. So Mae West, a life and pictures, that's what I'd like to do with my collection because I want to share it with people.
Yeah, that would be great.
It would be nice to do that. That hasn't happened yet, but I would really, really love to do that.
Because I love Vampira and as well. And so how did you connect with her?
Vampira, that was another one that I just wasn't into at first. I used to work at the biggest Hollywood memorabilia store in Hollywood called Cinema Collectors in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I worked with a lot of geeky sci-fi lovers. I hope I didn't offend anybody by saying that. But I'm not a sci-fi person. Yeah. They were just a whole bunch of guys, into sci-fi and Ed Wood and all that stuff. They'd mention her constantly, and she would come in sometimes. And I thought, well, she certainly doesn't look like those pictures they have of her. And so years went by. I'm talking years, like 9 years. And I just began to have this appreciation for the amazing eyebrows, the artistry of the face that she created, the tiny, crazy 16-inch waist.
I know, that was wild.
And all this stuff. I don't know what it was. I just suddenly liked her.
Yeah.
To my shock, I went into McDonald's across the street here one day in 2001, and there she was. And she was made up a little bit, and so I recognized her. And I'd already had a little photo album type thing of her at that point. So I rushed back here and then rushed back with it to show her and all of that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
guess she had just had one of those signing things,
Yeah.
you know, those paper shows. I didn't know that. So I
Yeah.
had something for her to sign, and she signed it. And then she says, $25. And of course, the blood drained from my face because I didn't go $25 to McDonald's.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she saw that I was sweating profusely. And she said, that's okay. Your love is enough.
Oh.
If you knew her as I got to know her, she was being sarcastic. I didn't know that. So anyway, I said, well, I'd like to see you again sometime, you know. And she said, okay. So she wrote me her address. I still have her handwriting of the address. So I went there, which is my custom as a gentleman when the mood strikes me,
Yeah.
with flowers. This is going to kill you. So I brought her the flowers, and she was sort of nonplussed about it, you know, and she took them and what have you. And we talked for hours and hours and hours. She was not warm. She was an intellectual. It's sort of like Orson Welles.
Yeah.
If you read this new book on her, they had a baby together.
Really? No, I hadn't seen the book, and I didn't know about the book.
And the
How
boy
did it?
didn't know for like 70 years.
Wow.
And he was adopted. So it's like, Orson Welles is my father and Vampire's my mother. What the hell?
Wow.
Other than that, so lucky. Like Quentin Crisp, she was emotionally detached. She was fun though.
Yeah.
She was nice, as genuinely nice. She loved to talk, and we talked about so many, many things. She dated Brando and all kinds of things. So anyway, I'm at her place. So I say, I have to use a restroom. Where is it? She said, oh, it's there over the corner. So I go into the restroom, and there are the flowers I gave her in the toilet.
No.
So I was stunned. And of course, again, the blood drained from my face. So I had to, you know, pee. So I lifted them up out of there. and did what I had to do, flush. And I thought, well, I guess I'm supposed to put these back. So so I put the flowers back in the porcelain vase. I got there, and she doesn't say, face expression doesn't change, voice doesn't say a word, and I don't. Talking, but it's on my mind the whole time she's talking. It's like the movies where you see their mouth moving, talking, but your mind is completely elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I enter, I said, just a minute, I have to ask you this. And I said, did you not like the flowers that I brought you today? And, you know, she looked at herself, I loved them. And I said, well, I couldn't but notice, as you can imagine, that they're in the toilet. And she said, yeah. And I said, why? And she said, well, it's perfectly logical. She said, so I don't have to give it fresh water every day. I finished that way. After each flush, she would have fresh water. She was really something. I really liked her a lot, and we spent many, 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 many hours together for a long time in her place. Betty Page did have massive resurgence. I mean, comic books, cartoons, statues.
Yeah.
There is a Vampira statue, though, which I have. So the way she felt about Elvira, she kind of almost felt about Betty Page as well.
Yeah. Well, you know, Betty Page, she's from Nashville, or was born here anyway, or something. There's a store here. There's even like a store that sells those kind of like outfits or
We in Hollywood, we have the Betty Page store too on Hollywood.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was just something, here or what. So okay, cool. Then it's a chain. So they really invested into that, I guess. And what about Edie? How did you come across her?
Again, the massive worship of her today was nowhere to be found when I was friends with her.
Yeah.
Nobody. This was also, again, 97. Quentin Crisp, Edie, Beale, Yma Sumac, all of them were like 96, 7, 8. I don't know why that was. I had a lot more energy then, I guess. So
I started seeing them to that point. I started seeing them. That was like when Mysteries and Scandals and all of that was on the E channel. That was kind of like when the E channel was kind of still going, or kind of early 90s or whatever. That's how I started seeing like Vampira and to know who she was and all of that, because that was before, I was in Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky was where I was born and raised. So, these people were far, well, I mean, Mae West, I know who Mae West was, of course, because that's a little different story. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the story by Edie. Go ahead.
I just browsing through the LA Weekly, and it said that Jackie Onassis's eccentric cousins, etc. So I thought that seems, and the picture of Edie standing with the falling down mansion behind her, it was totally my kind of thing.
Yeah.
I thought I have to see this. So I traveled all the way to the New Art, which is, 10 miles away. To me, that's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't drive. It was not what I thought it would be, but I still was quite fascinated by it, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. So I went to this little video cassette place and rented this old copy they had. I watched it continuously. I've lived alone since I was like 22. But since I lived alone, and was, if I didn't have somebody over I was dating, I was a little lonely sometimes. So I would play the cassette in the background all day. So like, I know every word of it. So I thought, I really like the daughter.
Yeah.
It's a daughter story. So I thought, I'll write to Al Maisels, the director, and see if she's still alive. Well, she was. He sent it to her and she wrote back. I was speechless to see that in my mailbox. She had very unusual handwriting, so I had to decipher it. Eventually I could read it. Today I could read it perfectly fine, even though it looks like Japanese or Chinese to most people. I thought, well, I know what she looks like. She should see what I look like. You remember how she was in the movie with the one guy?
Yeah.
His brother. So I said, she should like this one. So I sent it to her. And after that, she was writing every week and I was writing back. I thought of her as sort of like a really wonderful great aunt. She thought of me a little different.
Yeah.
But she called me Baby Valentino, and it was just she'd gush over me. I'll never forget on the phone. We'd talk on the phone also. I was saying something to her and she interrupts me right in the middle of a sentence and she says, "Oh, Damon, sweetheart, you're so good looking." And I said, "Thank you." And she said, "But I'm 83 years of age, so I have to keep a little dignity, you understand." And I really love her, and Tammy Faye, of all of these people, were the sweetest.
Yeah.
Their tempers, never hurt my feelings accidentally or otherwise. They were both wonderful people, and I have very fond memories of them. Yeah. So with Edie, it went on for years, like 4 years, or until she passed away, which was a thing.
Did you like the movie, the reimagining, or I guess with Jessica Lange and Drew Barrymore?
It's hard to impress me. And like the Tammy thing, I was nervous.
Yeah.
Nervous. But I think both ladies, especially Jessica Lange, who's always wonderful, yeah. I think they did a very fine job, and it was done with love and care. So I liked it. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate this so much, and I hope we can do it again. I'd love to. I mean, because there's so much more even on all of these ladies, actually. Thank you so much.
Subscribe to our mailing list and you could win a CD or DVD project by today's featured artist. To enter, please go to www.mrnashvilletalks.com and enter your email address. While there, take a look around, browse through our music store. Our show is totally funded by viewer support. Every t-shirt or music purchase from our store helps bring us new shows for you.